Earth is billions and billions of years old. This fair planet has seen many ages come and go. It's seen horrid winters and terrifying summers. It's seen ice ages and the deathly cold that comes with it. Today, we walk the Earth with very little knowledge of what this planet has seen and experienced. However, sometimes we stumble upon animal carcasses that have been preserved by the elements. Today on 100M, we'll be going through 10 of these amazing finds. Number 10. The puppy who ate a woolly rhino. In 2011, researchers discovered an ancient preserved body of a puppy from a site in Siberia. The puppy was said to be about 14,000 years old, but shockingly, that wasn't the only remarkable thing about the puppy. It wasn't even the most important thing about the puppy. Inside the puppy's stomach was a furry piece of tissue that looked like it belonged to a cave lion. Scientists came to this conclusion because of its yellow, furry fur. However, further research has shown that the tissues belong to a woolly rhinoceros. Interestingly, scientists say they have no idea how the flesh of the rhino got into the stomach of a puppy, specifically because the woolly rhinos were supposed to have been extinct 14,500 years ago. Number 9. Ice Age Bear. The last ice age was about 100,000 years ago. That ice age saw the rise of animals who were extraordinarily capable of dealing with the coldest conditions, and one of such animals was this ice age cave bear. This bear was found with most of its remains perfectly preserved. The find was made by reindeer herders in the Lakovsky Islands. Before this bear was found, only bones of its kind had been excavated. But these remains were of importance because even its nose was still intact. Its nose wasn't the only part of the animal that was perfectly preserved. There was also its internal organs and all of its soft tissue in place. The discovery was said to be of world importance by scientists involved with the work. According to them, the cave bear species found became extinct about 15,000 years ago, and analysts have said that the bear is about 22,000 years old. Number 7. The frozen bird of Siberia. In 2018, a frozen bird was found in the hills of Siberia. The bird had been well preserved in the permafrost, and scientists knew that it was a pretty old bird. However, they didn't expect to learn that the bird was about 46,000 years old. Yeah, 46,000 years old. And it was still as fresh as the day it had hit the ground and died. The bird was analyzed and was found to be a female horned lark which roamed the earth about 49,000 years ago. It was the first of its kind to be found perfectly preserved that way, and scientists believe that it will help the world understand lots of different things about Earth at the time of its death. For example, we'll be able to learn about the ecology and evolution of a range of species that lived in that period. Number 6. The Yukagir bison. The Yukagir bison was discovered by members of the Yukagir tribal community in 2011. This bison was ridiculously well preserved, and it was mostly complete. Radiocarbon dating of the horn and hair samples of the bison revealed that it had lived about 10,000 years ago. For scale, human beings were just learning how to plant wheat 10,000 years ago. We hadn't even discovered writing. That's how long ago the bison had lived. Scientists also estimated that the bison weighed about 600 kilograms and was about 5.5 feet tall at the shoulders. The bison had been found in a sleeping position, and it had no visible injuries. What this means is that the bison died in its sleep. Although the steppe bison may look like the bison of today, there are some differences between them. It was larger than the American bisons of today, and it had a second hump on its back. The bison went extinct about 10,000 years ago. Number 5. The foal with blood in its veins. Finding an animal preserved in ice is one thing, but finding one so well preserved that blood still flows through its veins, that's another thing entirely. This foal was discovered frozen in the Siberian permafrost, and it had a shocking surprise for scientists. It had the oldest liquid blood in living memory. The foal is of an extinct horse species called the Lena horse, and it is perhaps the most well-preserved species of anything ever found. It's so well preserved that it still had liquid urine in its bladder. Imagine that! The discovery of blood in this foal is so unprecedented because even blood usually evaporates or turns to powder, even in the most well-preserved carcasses. But the blood in this foal simply refused to melt away. That's because the blood was turned into ice in the foal's body. Amazing, right? Number 4. The Kolyma woolly rhinoceros. Woolly rhinoceros remains have been discovered everywhere. However, actually well-preserved remains have rarely ever been found. These animals used to roam the British Isles and scattered as far as Siberia. They were said to be some of the biggest mammals to roam Eurasia, and it's easy to see why. For a long time, scientists weren't quite sure of how the rhino looked. Until one day in 2007. On that fateful day, gold miners discovered a well-preserved remains of a female woolly rhino at a mine in Yakutia. The rhino was estimated to have weighed about 1.5 tons during its lifetime, which is almost as heavy as an elephant. The animal lived about 60,000 years ago, had a thick brown fur and skin, and had a short tail covered with fur. Unsurprisingly, the rhino was perfectly adapted for cold conditions. That's why it had so much fur covering its skin. However, scientists believe that it may have struggled to get around in the snow because of its ridiculously short legs. It may have found it difficult to live properly during the extreme snowstorms of its era. Number 3. Salarican Pony. In 1968, near a place called Yakutia, gold miners found yet another frozen carcass. They first saw 2 legs and a tail sticking out of a crevice in the ground. When they inquired further, they discovered that the legs and tails belonged to a mummified pony. They invited experts from the Zoological Institute in St. Petersburg, and they were able to retrieve most of the carcass, except the head. The animal was found to be a Przewalski's horse, a kind of wild horse that is now only found in Mongolia. This horse is more commonly known as the Salarican pony, and the animal had lived about 35,000 years ago. The experts were able to decide what age the horse died at. It lived up to 8 years before finally kicking the bucket, or doing whatever ponies do before they die. The gastrointestinal tract of the animal was full, which is a pretty good indication that it had a quick death. The stomach of the horse was analyzed, and it was discovered that its diet was made up of herbs, grasses, and woody plants, so no surprise there. Number 2. Mountain lion cubs. Finding one perfectly preserved specimen of a long-dead animal is rare enough, but finding 2 at the same time? That's extremely unlikely, but it happened regardless. Sparta and Boris are mountain cave lions that were dug up in Siberia in 2018. At first, scientists believed that they were siblings who died about 44,000 years ago. However, the analysis showed that only one of them died 44,000 years ago. The second cub had died 26,000 years ago, and it was a female cub. The female cub was renamed Sparta, and scientists now believe that she died of hunger after being abandoned by her mother. Till death, these lions remained the best remains of the Eurasian cave lion, a now extinct lion species that are said to be at least 10% larger than regular lions. Number 1. The Yucca mammoth. This mammoth was discovered by Yukagir tribe members on the coast of an area called Oyagoski Yar in Yakutia in 2009. The mammoth was dubbed Yucca after Yukagir by its finders. Soon enough, the mammoth took on the name Yucca mammoth. The skin of the mammoth and some of the fur of the mammoth was still well preserved. They were so well preserved that scientists could easily deduce that the mammoth had strawberry blonde fur. It also had intact muscles and ligaments. Shockingly, the trunk of the mammoth was also still intact. Research on the animal tells us that it died about 40,000 years ago, and it only grew to about 165 centimeters at the shoulders. It was also proven that the animal was just about 10 years old when it met its demise. Before the Yucca mammoth was discovered, no one knew what mammoths at this stage of development were supposed to look like, but the discovery changed all of that. When the mammoth was found, a litany of marks made by lions was found on its bones. This made scientists guess that it was targeted by cave lions shortly before it died. Aside from that, a bunch of marks on the mammoth bones that may have been linked to humans were also found. This is why some researchers believe that humans used lions to hunt, or at least stole hunts from them.